Greetings. I am Lord Sanat Kumara. I come forth today as one of many of those who are, as this gentleman would say, in the who's who in the cosmic directory. But today, I come to connect and to honor you too, as you have lived upon my planet, Venus. And it was Venus, of course, where the original Great Clarion Call was sent out from. Councils that I went to asking for volunteers, and the original core group of the 144,000. And my beloved other half, Lady Master Venus, and we are considered the Lord and Lady, so even the Logos is another term that has been used as an aspect of Venus itself, and the higher dimensional levels that we operate out of. And so there have been many clarion calls, we can say, and as the channel mentioned, that term has been used on the Earth plane when there is an emergency situation and one is sending out a cosmic SOS, a need for intervention. Divine intervention. There's many ways to express that. You could say that the original clarion call was what, in fact, was referred to as when I sent that call out. But it was prior to that in the sense of when I and many, even you and others that I am honored today to connect with, and those fellow Comoras, who are in fact very much a part of the, as we say, the goings on planet Venus, and for many ages of time. Understand that Venus was originally a comet in a sense that came into the solar system and became, as we say, situated where it has been for long periods of time. But it's played a very important role because it's also been a planet of great paradise. And despite the NASA trying to say that it's hundreds of degrees of temperature and not a hospital for life, that's total not true at all. It's a paradise on the planet Venus, and there are different dimensional levels to my planet. But again, I wanted to connect today and to honor you, as has already been brought forth, that you were one who rose to the occasion when I sent the great clarion call out across the entire universe. As in the call, many are called and few are chosen. You chose to be chosen. You made a conscious decision. Now, there were many who thought it was a suicide mission, a literal suicide mission, or term mission impossible. That term has been used in certain ways too, but in a sense it became that kind of ultimate challenge. And I've talked, and this channel knows about this, that regarding to some of the metaphysical and ascended master teachings, and my name has been mentioned, and others such as Soleil Winkler painted in a beautiful image of me and my other half, Lady Master Venus, as part of the who's who in the cosmic directory. But I had to sacrifice, in a sense, because when I went for the council, and I, with great pure heart, I wanted to come to Earth, because even in those earlier times, right after the Luciferian rebellion, when Lucifer rebelled, created pain and suffering, and began to put his presence upon planet Earth to some degree, began to influence the planet, and then light came in. The earlier, we say extended tours of volunteers, but that original clarion call was when I became very clear that because we observed what was happening on Earth. Negative energies were being projected to try to destroy or disrupt the original golden age, that going back to the early times of Lemuria and when it originally existed upon this planet. There was some confusion about the exact time frame of how many millennia, in fact, have passed from that original clarion call, but approximately, I've interpreted 6.5 million years of linear time. That's one interpretation from a 3D point of view. But if you look at it from another perspective, and the sense of the phrase, we have all the time in the universe, we don't relate to time in the way those of you on Earth relate to time. There are momentums, there is accelerations, there are expansions that have taken place throughout the eons of existence in the universe, a multi-universe. But that was one of the first times, in fact, officially, that many from many other worlds chose to get involved and help, because we didn't know all the details, because we knew there would also be a lot of timeline changes. But our divine creator had given me specifically, in the sense of the role that I was to play, the inspiration, the guidance of the need to give special help to planet Earth because of future experiences and the destiny that Earth was to experience, as also a place of teaching people levels of greater discernment, how to survive and to put yourself in very difficult situations as compared to many other planets that have never had negative conditions of duality and dark forces manipulating and torturing and horrific things occurring. And so Earth would have all kinds of experiences that could only be experienced on Earth because it would also become, as it did, a genetic bank, so to speak, of many beings from all over the universe coming to Earth and, as we say, contributing their DNA, RNA, because we knew that there would be new root races, new levels and beings that would come into manifest form, that our divine creator, through the divine blueprint of life, would inspire ground to, as we say, certain original root races were created so that souls could evolve and grow. Now, the difference between those original creations and these dark alchemists who want to create half animal, half human, to splice things together, genetically modifying, using nanotechnologies and nasty negative mark of the beast kinds of control over humanity. That's a aversion, a perversion to divine creation, a twisting around, as in the saying, it's not wise to fool Mother Nature, where these dark alchemists manipulated and created races of beings that were not aligned to divine creation. What we and other beings brought to Earth were going toward along with the divine blueprint, the divine spark of divinity. We always made sure we adhered the best we could to the highest creations that divine creation could give to us, the blueprint, so to speak, of all life. And we were very conscientious to make sure we adhered to those divine principles. But getting back to what led up to the great clarion call, as we noted energetic changes occurring on planet Earth, and we knew that we had to get more involved because of a unique destiny, the role that Earth was going to play. So I went before the council. There was a major, and we went actually to the area where Sirius we could say what is called the Great Central Sun, toward the center part of the galaxy, where major meetings took place, and we discussed this for quite some time. The desire to intervene. But we had already, shall we say, we had created what was to become the prime directive, as it has been termed. We had to be strict to that while still being able. This was the dilemma, because we were very, in a sense, rigid about that. We weren't going to make any changes, that we would leave Earth alone, in a sense, let it evolve on its own, even though there were termed caretaker-type beings who were allowed to come and oversee, as in the garden, overseeing, making sure that forms and species were again aligned with the divinity of creation, and that nothing was being created or manifesting that was against the will of divine source. And so we were very careful when energies began to settle, because we could call it a type of invasion. Right after Lucifer rebellion, when Lucifer and his, should we say, fallen angels that came to Earth and began to manipulate these divine blueprints that were in place and manipulate these early beings. In the root races, there were more than just one Adam and Eve. There was an Adam and Eve for every race on the planet, and there was also we could say it was actually a rainbow race, because there was a blue and green, every color of racial quality, we could say, of skin color, of all, but they were all, as we say, human appearing as well as various other species. So it was a rainbow race of beings and there was an Adam and Eve, so to speak, the original first creation established up on Earth, and then as to many, and then families began to form, societies and cultures began to form from the original divine blueprint, and things were taught to enhance that whole process. Again, it was always according to the divine, and everything we had to adhere very strictly to that divine sacred spark, and not in any way distort it, manipulate it, or try to, as in the phrase, trying to fool Mother Nature. And that phrase is not wise to fool Mother Nature. That's what these dark alchemists have constantly tried to do from the time they first came to Earth, and then placing Earth, taking away the nirvanic ecstasy grid and placing it into the matrix of control, holographic illusion, so to speak, over a long period of time. It became better at manipulating. And then eventually the creation of AI came about. Lucifer and those forces he was connected with created that. So we saw these things beginning to brew, beginning to form, first very subtly. We saw how these things would build up. And this also has to do with another thing related to timelines and what became part of timeline wars. Negative forces manipulating the original divine timeline, we can say, and then those of the light coming to Earth to bring things back into balance. But going to that original moment of the Great Clarion Call, again, when I very passionately stood before the council and I presented what I was being guided to do, I felt that I had to get more personally involved. And I wanted to go to Earth, to Terra. There are many different words for Earth that has been used related to the original beginnings of Earth and the Eden and things of that nature, the original beauty, beautiful creations of all life that Earth was, in fact, the Garden of Eden. And so after discussing this, and because of the protocols of the Prime Directive that had already begun to be formed, and we had to adhere to that very strictly, this is what our hands became a little tied. And this is why many of those beings who became members of what became known as the Karmic Board, their job was to be responsible to make sure that the Earth would be given a chance as a place where people could work out their karma, while also having the golden ages, that there were the astral and etheric and different levels of consciousness around the planet that were, shall we say, created for souls going back and forth, about to get ready to take incarnation, those that would go on and so on. This has been an ongoing process for eons of time. But after discussing for quite some time, we came to a conclusion, and our divine source began to acknowledge this with us. And the requirement was that if I could get enough volunteers from all over the universe who were willing to put their immortal physical light body, the higher Elohim, higher energetic body that they had, put that in storage and come down to the human embodiment and take a very sacred vow, one of the most sacred vows of the entire universe, that one would keep incarnating, no matter how many lifetimes it took, until the job was completed, until it was fulfilled, no matter how many millennia it would take. Of course, it took a lot longer than we had thought it would, than we had hoped it would take. And it really was literally until the 3D time aspect of 1956, approximately, was when 51% of the light had gained the upper hand, a little more than half, slightly more than half. And that was something also that Saint Germain, who has come through this channel quite often, has mentioned this, that he challenged the Lords of Karma, basically, when the imbalanced forces found ways to continue to manipulate even the most advanced discerning beings to a degree, through their desire to control and manipulate and possess, and those things that they did, that as long as 51% of karma, because originally it was 100%, there were no exceptions, this was the agreement. And unfortunately, as time went on, and the forces of manipulating everything, it was discovered that it was really impossible to ever get off the wheel of karma. It became an endless, like what term, Groundhog Day matrix, over and over, repeating over and over again, and never building enough spiritual escape velocity, Saint Germain has used that term, to get out of the wheel of karma. But it was I who set that whole thing in process and established the original group of 144,000. Now, I would mention that, and this channel has seen the analogy similar to the special forces in the military, those who were part of that original core group. They were, when I sent out the Great Clarion Call, as it has been called and referred to, and it reverberated across the entire universe. And you could hear the angelic beings playing the great trumpets and blowing the bugle, blowing the divine trumpet of divine sound. And every soul on every planet heard this clarion call, a call of arms, a reaching out to ask for those that would be willing to sacrifice what the level they were operating on and come to Earth. And it was also noted, even though there are many twin flame couples who did come on that original journey, most twin flame couples decided to separate because there was a feeling that if one of them stayed behind on the higher realms, they could help to overlight, to influence, rather than both being put in a dangerous situation. And I was told, in fact, that one of the things I had to do was I had to separate from my beloved other half, Lady Master Venus. That was a very difficult challenge and sacrifice. I didn't want to be away from her. I wanted to be connected with her because she is my other half, as it is for all couples, the divine couples. And so this was one of the sacrifices, one of the requirements. And it was a very intense time to come before her and to tell her what I had been guided by our divine source that I needed to do. I didn't want to separate from her. And this was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. And this is true of every twin flame couple who's made that difficult choice to separate from their beloved other half. And so now we could say the great clarion call has been sent out around the universe in a wonderful way, the call to bring divine couples back together. Original separation, and though they came back together once in a while, and related to the great fairy tales and love stories, and of those stories of divine unconditional love, divine romantic unconditional love, but for most of the couples, they were separated for long periods of time. This was what was called upon them to do. They paid the price for that sense of helping humanity, and they made the vow that no matter how many lifetimes it took till the job was done. And the great celebration is not only did 51% gain the upper hand in 1956, but now there's a rapid acceleration of the imbalanced energy being forced to vacate the earth and being recycled to the Godhead, so to speak, to be as if they ever existed. And the great golden age will come to earth again. So there is a rapid acceleration, and this also is related to the harmonic vibrational scale of energy around you that is raising much more all the time. It's going to start accelerating. It's going to increase and be able to easier to raise your vibrations, and things that this channel teaches also will be of help. And there's also things within your DNA RNA that you have within your genetic memory going back eons of time and lifetimes you've spent both on and off the planet. And now finally, this is the final fulfillment of that great vow, the last embodiment. You wanted to be here this final time to fulfill the fact that you can say you were here when the victory finally came, the ultimate final victory of the light. You were here in physical embodiment. And because physiologically, as Volta and other beings would say, there's an interesting physiological, an epiphany and a self-realization that takes place when you reach a certain point in your spiritual evolution and you embrace a state of consciousness, you live a certain way that allows you to achieve and to hold that light. Because many times you found it, but then you lost it, so to speak, the intensity of it. Now you're bringing it into your consciousness so that it becomes a very powerful part of your essence. You don't have to go through letting go or sacrificing certain things. Now you're in the process of becoming more whole, going back to the time when you first became a part of this whole process. Now, I will say, too, that when the Great Clarion Call was sent out, there were actually quadruple. How many zeros behind a 1? We could say hundreds of zeros behind a 1 would be, there's no way to even, what word can I use for that number of beings who are willing to sacrifice out of unbearable compassion, is the term that has been used, leave their light body, leave their planetary system, their original home, and come to a far-off planet on the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. And that's one of the reasons that Venus came into the solar system also, was to be close to the Earth planet and to try to bring, and being the closest planet to Earth, to influence, shall we say, or at least it changed its orbit some, we could say, to a degree where it's situated, but to be as close to Earth as possible in the heavens to influence all of that which has been going on Earth, and contributing on not only spirituality, but as well as technology. Of course, as was recently the realization of he known as Nikola Tesla, planet Venus was also his home, and you, my brother, have also lived on the planet Venus. I've had the honor of connecting with you in the city of Shambhala, similar to the city inside the planet known as Shambhala. It's the capital city of the planet Venus, means paradise. And so as we and members of the term royal family on Venus, the Comoras, we would gather, but we had great parties and celebrations. So I was honored to connect with you and many others who have been connected with Venus and many other planets that you have lived on, and different galaxies and realms and worlds. The universe is a multi-existent reality. and is constantly shifting and growing. So I just wanted to share a little bit of background in the role that I've played. And so when I finally, and see, because I had to separate from my beloved other half, now the impression has been given through the Ascended Master teachings that I was gone literally for 6.5 million years. That's not exactly true. I was given a few little, shall we say, respites, little R&R to be back with my beloved Lady Master Venus a few times. But for the most part, my energy was fully anchored upon planet Earth. And then Gautama Buddha, the Buddha took over with the help of all the light workers in around 1956. And I was able to throw up my robes and go back to Venus to be with my beloved, never to be separated ever again. It's been mentioned to the Ascended Master teachings that is exactly what happened. In fact, this channel knows of one group in the area of Sedona, Arizona, the Ruby Ray Focus Group, that was channeling when I, in fact, announced this. At that time, I'm going back to Venus. And so I fulfilled the role that I came to Earth to do originally. And now Gautama Buddha and also light workers all over the world would continue to finish up the final phase of anchoring in the light, the final victory of the light. So I am honored to connect today through this channel and connect with you, being one of the many members of the 144,000. So again, related to that, when I said a 1 with 100 zeros approximately, that's how many beings were willing to come. And we've said this, and we've explained this. No being in the higher realms is, and different levels and realms, is better than any other being. You're all, as we all are, unique. It's been said many times that our divine creator created unique, individualized God sparks of divine intelligence and basically threw away the cookie cutter mold. Every time we were created, no one is exactly. Now, there may be similarities, but our divine creator is endless for all the uniqueness that divine creator has created for all of us in the universe. And so, but in order to find out the ones that were most suited to come to Earth, a type of special forces training, survival training, was the beings were put through. And it was discovered over a long period of time there was only a certain small group of beings, really almost a mere speck in the entire cosmos, that after being put through all of these intense, rigorous survival kinds of techniques to find who was energetically, physiologically more able to endure horrendous things that one would experience on Earth, literally it was whittled down to only 144 times 1,000, 144,000, exact number of the original core group of volunteers. And again, I am honored to connect with you as one of those original core members, and all of you, and as you represent all of the various souls that this channel has connected with through his work. And I've come through this channel a few times in the past, and again, I'm honored to come today, and again to acknowledge you, and to also recognize acknowledging all the volunteers. Now today, almost half the world's population, whose souls are somewhere from somewhere else, or actually that's the actual number, who have come here to be here in this final time. Not only the original 144,000, but greater numbers of volunteers started coming in eventually as time went on. Because when the original core group learned physiologically by being on Earth as part of the ground group, and began to learn and had certain perspective and contrast that they originally didn't have, then it began to rub off, so to speak. They began to project that unique physiological awareness they had gleaned while being here to other beings who are waiting in the wings, that even though they weren't able to pass the original rigorous training, now this physiological level of wisdom that they began to glean, they began to form, as it's like the white light of purity, metal of wisdom becomes gold, for example, the gold of wisdom, be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. So this began to rub off, so to speak, so that others could come, not only as incarnates by being born through the Earth Mother's womb, but coming into what has been termed walk-ins, where there was a soul transfer or a soul emergence, where a higher being would come down into the physical body in place of the other soul, or they would just merge with the other soul and share the same body, and that's possible. There's different kinds of walk-in things, or again, incarnating by coming in at the moment of birth or a few minutes before, or even an earlier year. So again, there's different aspects of volunteers that are here. And so over a period of time, more groups could come because they learned to also pick up and develop those qualities within their essence that they originally didn't have. Now, this is an example where Divine Creator created every being unique, But after having experiences, the divine creator also allowed souls to develop qualities on their own, to manifest, to develop wisdom, self-realization, to experience epiphanies, self-realizations, and have experienced synchronicities, which is also ways of giving clues and messages and through prayer and meditation and communicating, one learns to develop and fine-tune that. So that's why more numbers were able to finally begin to come to Earth than just the 144,000. So a greater number is now on Earth sharing. And of course, because there's only a certain number of physical bodies to go around, there's still a long line out there. There's a long line around the galaxy. And one would say, who in their right mind would want to come to Earth? Oh my God, compared to these paradise worlds, well, because Earth is about to become a paradise world and even go a step beyond that even some other worlds have not experienced, from having gone down to the lowest levels to now go to the highest levels dimensionally. Eventually it will become a 12th density and higher world than in the 5th 5D that it's moving into right now. So there's a lot of wonderful things in the future. Stick around for the movie that will continue to play out, so to speak. And when I came to Earth, many of you know the story of that in the Gobi Desert quote, when I created, manifested Shambhala on Earth on the external level, and it was attacked by the dark forces right away. But we used that as the grounding point to begin to spread the light around the planet. And he died in those early days, and it was immediately, souls came back immediately and began to spread the light, and the darkness was pushed away. But there were still elements of it would crop up every now and then. And now, one of the great revelations that I am also very excited about, that our divine creator, the universe, has created what has been interpreted as energy, that as in one says, you're going to enjoy life whether you like it or not, is the energy. The divine creator is tired of the suffering. Did not want souls to have to learn through the school of hard knocks, did not want to have souls learn the hard way. That was related to the karmic wheel, the endless wheel of karma. One is supposed to learn through joy and beauty and inspiration, not pain and suffering, not twisted around, but yet that was the way souls would learn discernment, to learn not to get themselves or make the wrong mistakes. And one doesn't learn unless they're allowed to dive into the situation. But as parents and those of us who care about our families, no matter what world or planet or realm we are a part of, we care, we want to protect, we want to guide, but we still have to allow, as a sovereign being that you and everyone else is, when you feel guided to do something, we must respect that, and also, as we say, support you and help you in on that mission as best we can, or what we're allowed to do, because there are many things we're not allowed to do. We must allow your sovereignty and free will to be expressed, but we're always there to be as much help and influence as we can, to be lovingly influenced, but still giving you the free rein to do whatever you want to do. It's like a smorgasbord of choice. And so it's with great joy, again, connecting with you today. I will say that through meditation, you will become more aware of your identity, and even related to names that you've had. See, name is like a mantra. It isn't just giving a person a name, it's you through initiation, discovering the process of having that epiphany. It's like the mantra that allows you to tune into the higher energy, the access security code. That's what your name represents, aspects of divinity, of the divine source in a sense. And so when you rediscover that name, it's like an access code to allow you to connect with other levels of knowledge. So it's like an initiatory thing. You have to go through a little bit of a struggle, but it's basically just opening up, tuning in, and then breaking through certain things, and then connecting with that ultimate source, yourself. And I've always been there. In a sense, some aspect of me has been there, but now in the future, ahead of the times and ahead, many of us will have a chance to come to Earth, literally to have our presence on Earth. Many beings from all over the universe, from different realms and levels of reality, our awareness, we will be experiencing being able to interface with humanity. And so we look forward to that. And again, the chance of interacting and making the great family reunion, some of the great light club parties that we will be having. It's a great celebration, a homecoming and standing before the council, looking back on Earth and being able to say you truly did everything you meant to do. You have no regrets. This is a thing we always tell our loved ones and those of the 144,000, that you must live your life, and you've attempted to do this, live your life as if each moment is the last moment on planet Earth. If the next moment was your last moment, what would you do? What rather than wasting quote time to do other things? And so you've attempted with heart, mind, and soul to try to do that, to be a part of that dynamics. That if that was your last moment, that you can truly look back with no regrets. And it's really sad when we see souls who have a lot of regrets, quote, as they reach, quote, the end of their time on Earth and up to now, and they feel like they didn't accomplish what they really came to do. That's a really sad thing. But it's going to be more and more so that souls will now be able to accomplish what they came to accomplish, to feel, without feel like they got off course or any regrets that they have. So as one goes into the golden age, we can say that one of the dynamics that humanity will now be able to have plenty of time and freedom to do everything they want to and then some, rather than having any regrets when they look back on it. And when all of the cabal agendas are done away with, and only that of the light is left and is here, and everything is in the golden age, that truly will be a time of great celebration. That time is approaching very rapidly, and so you're doing all you can, and we're doing all we can at our level, and eventually we'll come to a point where there will be no separation, and we're given the green light where we can come down on Earth and rub elbows and associate. And there are going to be some places on Earth that will be set aside as kind of cultural, intergalactic cultural exchange locations and centers in place where those of us from off planet can interact with those of you on Earth. And as it is on other worlds, visiting aboard the great motherships and different experiences you've had all come back to you. And it will be a very exciting, wonderful thing to review, to remember, to celebrate those connections that you have. So again, I'm here to support, to guide, to influence as much as I can, but it's still up to you through your choices and pure heart's desire to make the things come about. But the greater choices you will have, you're going to have more. And this goes back to something that's come through this channel quite often about, and related to that philosophical question of how much is predestined, how much is free will. And of course, we always mention this, that when you align your free will with divine will, then you're actually given more free will because you show responsibility and maturity of handling free will. So you're actually given more of it. That's what a lot of souls don't understand. When they unite their free with divine will, you create this very powerful connection with divine source, and it recognizes your pure heart's desire, and you open up many doors and portals and opportunities to allow joyous things and unlimited abundance to begin to manifest more and more in your life. So again, there's many of us who are connected with higher energies of light. To the Logos energy is on Venus, and again are part of there are many different councils within councils and different realms and beings all throughout the universe that we have connections with. And you will again start to remember many of those connections and many journeys and experiences and lifetimes that you've lived in other realms. And so this is a very profound time.
I would love to know more about lifestyles. I would love to know more about, for example, the lifestyles of human beings, of advanced beings in Venus, or like in terms of food, in terms of clothing, in terms of shelter, in transportation, or like general information, which would be very interesting to hear, which would help me remember more, etc. And it would help me to grow my earth knowledge also.
Yeah. Well, first of all, do you know that I am, as with our race, we are blue colored, our skin is blue colored. And this is connected with even some of the early Eastern traditions refer to many of us who are very blue in our color, and some of the tapestries, in fact, in some of the temples show blue beings interacting with other races, and we were all in great harmony with one another. And I have manifested my presence once in a while. In fact, this channel knows at one time when he was in Hawaii, and I manifested on some of the islands there, and a temple was actually created because of my presence at that time. One observed and when he was walking along, and I manifested to him, and I appeared about 20 feet tall. My size is very relevant. It's irrelevant, but I can make my size any size I want to. We have that ability to make our size larger, smaller. We can become an orb if we want. And when you speak of Venus as, of course, a beautiful place that I always consider my home, and the higher dimensional realms that are, of course, we use a huge amount of crystal and sound and frequency We manifest crystal. Our temples are made of crystal. Like in the early days of Lemuria, everything was beautiful rainbow-colored crystal. It was living crystal. It was alive with life force. And this beautiful celestial music of the spheres, the sound, the heavenly chorus, one would call it, of beauty in the paradise, in the Garden of Eden that existed in all these worlds. And so we work with the sounds, we work with the beauty, we work with nature and creation. And so it's consciousness technologies we use. It's all telepathic interface. It's very normal to be connected on all levels with forms of technology. And unlike on Earth, we don't build like we have somebody pounding and hammering and those things. We just manifest beauty. It'd be crystal temples, or it'd be working with nature. We work with the elementals. We have gigantic gardens with beautiful exotic flowers and herbs and shrubbery, different kinds of growth. And the nature spirits are very plentiful, for they are the guardians of the plants and put life forms into it. And the Elfin Kingdom is on all worlds, exist in different planetary spheres. And so, of course, our cities are mostly made out of crystal, and we use gold and silver and different things for spiritual purposes, not for economic purposes. And yet that's based on the new financial system, that real currency is supposed to be backed by real things of value. Things that are out of the ground, that are part of Mother Earth and all worlds, that there's a value, there's a spiritual value. There's a spiritual consciousness and presence that many have tried to describe how much is valued in an economic sense, but the truth is it's a spiritual value, and that's what true economy is, based on spiritual value and unlimited abundance, which is a state of consciousness. So that's a state of consciousness we operate on all the time. And we are in harmony with nature, the universe, all worlds. We can connect with systems and worlds easily. And when one is manifested in the immortal physical light body, where, as Lady Master Venus and I, as a divine couple, would create, actually manifest the immortal light body, and the soul would merge into it. Or you didn't have to be born through the womb room. Totally different thing. So that's how creation came about, and a very beautiful, beautiful orgasmic way that was in line with divine creation. And we created many sons and daughters, thousands, in fact, over a long period of time, that then would often migrate to other places, but they would always come back. We'd have these large family reunions throughout the universe, and our light ships we create and manifest. We can change them, make them smaller, large. We can just transform something, again, from warm form, as like, say, with an orb that had been, to a large, gigantic planetoid mothership that's thousands of miles across. Size and shape and distance have no real relevance to any limitation whatsoever, but what our consciousness allows us to do. The only limit is the limit we place upon something. So there is a sense of order, there's a sense of balance in our communities, our cities, our civilization. It's continually evolving. It's a very exciting, beautiful existence of creation, where we're growing and learning, both on Venus and everywhere else that we have connections with. And all planets are actually populated in the solar system, unlike NASA lying about the true reality of things. Many things are about to be revealed, updated as far as information and knowledge on Earth. And as with Venus and every other planet, there's a lot of revelations that are going to be blowing a lot of people's minds. I just barely touched it. What is the phrase that comes through this channel a lot? The tip of the iceberg. The little tiny speck versus the rest of the iceberg that's millions of miles long and big, compared to that little tiny speck at the top of the iceberg above the water kind of thing. So there's a lot to really become aware of, to embrace, to study. And so study, unlike on Earth, where they create, as this channel likes to use the phrase, a lot of educated fools, where they are brainwashed by a certain narrative, a limited, manipulated, unreal thing to keep people stuck in a state of limitation. But the realities that have been suppressed are going to be revealed. They're all being revealed. They're all coming out. All the horrific things must be revealed so that the planetary wounds of Earth can be healed. And then the beauty replaces the ugliness and darkness. The beauty, joy, excellence, quality, alignment with nature, everything is coming into a greater harmonious. Now, in this transition, there's going to be some challenges, because people have to let go of, release ideas, concepts, and opinions that aren't really aligned with the way things actually are, beyond concepts, opinions, and theories. Sut truths, they're called, universal truths. They're always, and now sometimes there can be so-called paradoxes that seem to be two conflicting truths occupying the same space. That occurred in a lot of, quote, time travel paradoxes, where things were created contradicting some other state of consciousness because of what the imbalanced sources are doing. Glitches in the time-space continuum sometimes have occurred because of that. And we, of course, work to keep things in balance. Those of us who are of a logos type of level, who are creator gods and goddesses, so to speak, our responsibility is to keep things in balance, keep things in order, while still giving total free will to the universe to evolve as it feels naturally guided to do. And our civilization is based upon being connected with all of the divine laws of the universe. We have an innate sense of it. Before, unlike on Earth, where those who have had control over everything manipulated and suppressed everything, put a spin on everything, twisted everything to a very dim little tiny bit of reality from what really exists. Now, soon the, quote, matrix, which is in the process of collapsing on itself, the hologram that has been created as an illusion, is soon to be gone, replaced with truth, joy, and beauty, a new hologram that is ever, again, rejuvenating to reality as it's supposed to be. That's just a short little, very brief summarization of some of the things that you have asked about.
Number one, regarding food, I wanted to know more. Do you grow your own food, or do you just manifest it? Do you use those replicators or those synthesizers to just create whatever you want to eat, or do you actually use that traditional thing that we use here on Earth? Plant a seed in the ground and watch it grow and take care of it, and then it flowers and gives you fruit or vegetables and so on and so forth.
Well, we could say that most of the above we do. We don't have, sometimes there are those who like to plant things and watch things grow and come up. And you could say that as we work with nature, there's so much abundance. Nature always puts out an unlimited abundance from even the few, there's so many seeds available. And so nature, when humanity is in harmony to nature, as in some of the images of the Elfin Kingdom, the Tolkien aspect as an example, we're showing certain trees that grow in a very beautiful, or hedges that are naturally trimmed in the sense that the hedge grows that way. You don't have to cut it, crude. Cutting it, lawn mowing thing, those are all crude kind of violent actions, as versus just working with nature, and then nature responds to, if you have a certain inclination to have on your, quote, where you live, having beautiful types of foliage, plants, flowers and things growing a certain way, they take a certain form energetically. So it's like energetic alchemy. You're working with the elementals because they're the ones that really do the work in a sense, and different elementals and different levels do things to create even gemstones and things that are created after many eons of time that are beautiful manifestations of light, different colored light that come into the gemstones, and minerals that become crystallized through pressure, through evolution. So much of what you ask about, all of those things are utilized for different reasons at different times. Sometimes it's more focused on one of those than other things, but a lot of, a vast majority is just manifesting just with one's mind. Saying, I'm in a mood today. What shall I create? Oh, yes. I have this and I have that choice, and a different flavor over here. And then suddenly you connect with a nature spirit and they have an interesting idea. You give kind of authority to them, in a sense, and so it's like a relationship, a symbiotic connection with different kingdoms, different animals, plants working together, creating a paradisical existence. And it just constantly flows and expands, and through the use of your imagination, if you can think of it, you can do it. And it's beautiful things. And so nature responds to that. Either one of the reasons that there has been, quote, extremes of weather. Now, in more modern times, the Cabal created weather modification technology to manipulate, control, and destroy, versus earlier on in ages past, there were no hurricanes or tornadoes and those kind of extremes because humanity was in harmony to nature. And nature and the elementals responded to humans' consciousness. This is something in some of the metaphysical occult teachings where they talk about that the elementals have to respond to humans' emotions and requests, so to speak. And the Dark Ones often manipulate the elementals, or have. Now have become more sovereign, not being able to be manipulated by the dark side because of changes and things that Divine Source has brought forth and downloaded into this new existence that we're merging into on Earth. So they can't manipulate as they used to. And like karmic things, that things had to play out karmically. Then the cosmic law of grace was brought to free up souls that were stuck on the wheel of karma, and also allowed elementals to become more sovereign rather than having to respond to humans' demands and whatever, no matter whether it was positive or negative. That's where sorcery was used, and forces that had to answer. And dark forces took advantage of that, and manipulated. So now they can no longer do that. Everything can only be created when it's of the light. So now there is more balance and order, but there's still always going to be spontaneity in a very beautiful way. So now energies are automatically, just like it's been discussed in this channel, how technology now is fail-safe in the sense that no longer can negative forces manipulate it for their negative, overt, covert reasons. It won't respond at all. It has to be, it can only relate to the highest energies of the universe. And so there's been a lot of improvements through eons of time to come to this point that everything is becoming more perfect in a more harmonious, expanded way. So that's just one little tiny tip of the iceberg again about much more. And we just like to whet your appetite a little bit. Just give it a little hors d'oeuvres, little appetizers, a little hors d'oeuvres before the 8-course meal is served, and you can open up a whole nother. They use, what is the word? The can of worms? No, it's not a can of worms. It's not the Pandora's box. It's not like that. No, you open it up and some beautiful things you discover. Because the negative forces hijack some other things. So when people, it's like the saying that curiosity killed the cat. That's another saying. Something that some little animal minding its own business and all of a sudden got killed because its curiosity went the wrong way. No, that's not the reality. Now one can be, but there's a difference between positive vulnerability and negative vulnerability. So there's more wisdom of being able to open up to new things, but put up these filters that do not allow any negative realities to manifest ever again. That it's actually becoming impossible to do that because your consciousness is so perfect, you're merging more and more into a higher perfection that only beauty and perfection and joy, again, those are the creations that elevate and inspire, that uplift in the divine sense of life itself that's now begin to unfold upon Earth here in the coming time. So again, there's many different aspects that we could touch on about that, but we are noting that this channel's schedule is coming to a point here to bring this to a close. But maybe one last question here before we come to a close.
Okay, my last question would be, if at your level of consciousness that you are living and experiencing and having your being in, but since you're able to manifest things just with your level of consciousness, with your intent, and also you have access to other consciousness machines like synthesizers and replicators, etc.
Yes.
So I would imagine there would be no need for an economy like the way it is here. You would just, whatever you need, you would just manifest it. So there would be no point of...
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That's that is more normal, actually, than things that have existed on Earth. The only reason Earth has existed the way it has for a while is because the Cabal, as it has been referred to, the Dark One, created control over things by giving things value in a wrong kind of materialistic way, taking away the spiritual divinity of it. They created it so a lot of people, they induced this greed, this lust for power, rather than the joy of spiritual counseling, coming together in fellowship. They emphasize certain things so for manipulation purposes and to make things valued materially. Now, for a little while upon planet Earth, there will still be an economy, but in a more advanced form of it called the quantum financial system, in which everyone will now be accessing unlimited abundance with certain levels of responsibility attached to it. And eventually, quote, currency will cease to exist because things will no longer be valued just for a purely material thing. It will all be spiritual. So especially with replicators and everything else, medbits and all those things will become a commonplace situation on Earth, and that will change society considerably to what is considered valuable as far as in the reasons behind it. The cultural, physiological sense of things are going to be upgraded considerably, and especially as you interact with beings from those of us from other worlds, that affects you very much too. So that very soon, your sense of what is important and what is considered as commerce has an entirely different meaning as far as value, spiritual value, sociological, planetary, cultural exchange, sharing ideas, sharing fellowship. And so there are different levels of different worlds as far as what has been termed commerce, interactions, fellowship, being members of councils, and there's plenty, unlimited abundance to go around. So if you can think of it, you can do it. Everything is possible in all these different worlds, but being able to explore, and that is part of the ongoing evolution of throughout the universal realms. And so Earth is going to go through a series of rapid upgrades over the coming years and decades, and as Earth continues to raise its frequency. So there's a lot of wonderful things to look forward to. So different planets are operating at different levels of that understanding and are growing and evolving. And so there's many different beings, again, that are being more aligned with divine creation. Many races, in fact, are going through their own interesting forms of evolution, and that allows them greater connection with divine creator, greater adaptability as far as technology is interfacing, and just everything, this consciousness access. That so it is a totally different way of life than on Earth, but eventually Earth will also be operating in the same higher way. There's still going to be different choices and things. For a while, some things there are areas of society that will evolve more rapidly, and other areas that will still be older ways of doing, not as it has been up to now, but there's going to still be certain laggards, quote, who are lagging behind a little bit, but now there won't be the destructive qualities and things that have been highlighted in the past. Now the higher qualities will be more highlighted, and tendencies that are destructive or negative will go away, because most people want peace, most people want to be in a higher state, but because of the karmic things and the distractions, very toxic kinds of emotional things related to the environment that one has been living in, and as this all adjusts and shifts, then the tendencies become more evolved, become more of the sense of virtue and joy and integrity becomes the normal everyday type of existence, especially during this challenge humanity is presently facing. They're rising to the occasion, which is giving the White Hat Alliance the support it needs to take the actions that they need to take. In other words, it's like you giving also another analogy to that. Those on Earth, by your actions, you give those of us off planet and divine creation authority to intervene more directly, and it becomes a little more direct, a little more interactive and personal than in the past. There were areas termed biblical times when the presence of the divine creator was more duly noted, although often misinterpreted or misunderstanding how, and often projecting onto the description of divine creator based on the limitations of consciousness, that those that were writing down their revelations and their attempt to describe with human terminology undescribable, unfathomable kinds of awareness that they saw, they experienced it, but they couldn't put it in words, did the best they could. Then unfortunately others got a hold of that knowledge and put a spin on it, projected their lack of understanding on that. So it could be argued that it was like the word of God, quote, it was distorted because of the communication being very limited to what human could pick up on. And so now there won't be that distortion. You'll be much more, your I am presence will be more connected with the great I am that I am, feeling divine source inside of you more. There'll be more duly noted the presence. And so there's not, and even though there will be many who may act as intermediaries, as term channels and priests and those, unlike in many churches where the priests have controlled and manipulated based on their level of understanding, more and more of humanity will be directly in touch with God, divine creation, in a much more balanced, functional, non-toxic way, a much more natural understanding of, as in this phrase, God and God loving and God respecting versus God fearing. There's no fear in relation to divine creation, but many have been afraid because they've been programmed about divine source, and those who were interpreting things on their level and for the agendas they were a part of in times past. Now that's all going to be a thing of the past, as things are revealed and exposed that have been hidden away, and areas of knowledge now will be shown to humanity. It's quite an interesting time, a golden age of a renaissance that you're emerging more and more into. So we have a lot to look forward to. So I want to bless you. been a great joy and an honor for me to connect today. I am Lord Sanat Kumara, and for all of the fellow Kumaras, my other half, Lady Master Venus, and all of us on the planet Venus, and all throughout the higher realms, we want to express our joy to you, and looking forward to connecting more in the coming time. Blessings as above, so below, and so it is.